Hi, welcome back to What's Wrong with This Picture. We are talking about photography and in particular photo resolution. The resolution, which is sort of, it's not just about sharpness, it's about the ability to resize pictures and make them printable or, you know, etc. And then there's different resolutions for different purposes, of course. You know, we want that low resolution for pictures on the web because it makes them faster to load.
Yeah, we've all had the experience of going to someone's website where the picture took what seemed like a week to come up once you clicked on it, and that was probably because they put up a picture that was of too high a resolution to render itself on the internet easily.
Right, that's true. Now sometimes, in some cases, publications or companies may do that because they want to make a high-res picture available to some people so that they can print it. So it does take a longer time, but that's not for general viewing purposes.
Usually you don't look at those on the screen. They have a link that says download, and you can download the picture, which takes some time, but you end up with a higher resolution picture of their product or whatever it is so that you can use it in print.
That's true, yeah. Okay, so if we want to make changes in print size or whatever, what are some things that we need to know about resolution and how to deal with resizing of photos?
Well, first of all, how do we resize them in the first place? We just don't look at them and say, you know, I wanted a different size, but we have to put them in a photo editor in most cases. And in the photo editor, what you'll find is the picture that originally comes out of your camera is of a fixed size that the camera is programmed to output. In most cases, these pictures are coming out. Today's higher resolution or higher megapixel cameras are putting pictures out at about 240 pixels per inch, somewhere in there in most cases. Now that doesn't mean that one of the lesser expensive cameras wouldn't put pictures out at 72 pixels per inch, but most of them are up there a little ways.
Right, because they know that people do want to print some of these pictures.
And part of what you get in higher megapixel cameras is you get much more information in the picture, so that vertical and horizontal size we were talking about, those numbers are a little larger so that you can actually make a bigger picture if you were going to print it.
Okay.
So first of all, we know that. Now the way that you change the size of the picture can be in essentially three different ways. So when you look in your editor, usually you'll have what's called a pixel dimension, and that's that 1024 by 768 or whatever the number happens to be. And there you can change those pixel numbers, and that will automatically then change the resolution number that's further down, but it allows you to select size based on that. Now, if we look, for example, let me finish one other thing. Document size then is another thing you can change. For example, you'll usually see that you can select inches or pixels or centimeters or whatever, and the numbers that you have there are for, again, vertical and horizontal size, 9 by 12, 5 by 7.
But that's a printed size, in other words.
Right.
So it's giving you
It's giving you a reference, a point of reference.
Okay,
it says if you print this, it's going to be, and you choose 8 by 10, it's going to come out 8 by 10, and the whole picture will be there.
So we got a visual on it. Kind of, I think, doesn't that kind of show some of the the settings that we have there?
Let's look at the first one. Here's a picture. In this case, my granddaughter in the Badlands, and what we've done here is this is the original picture that came out of the camera at 240 pixels per inch.
Okay.
And the size from my camera at the time was 12 inches by 18 inches. Okay, so that's 18 inches tall, 12 inches wide. Now, that's going to be fine for printing on any inkjet printer.
Gotcha.
I'd have to up it a little bit if I were going to go to a professional printer, and usually they're going to say 300 pixels per inch. And again, they really don't need, they may not need that depending on what their reference is, because they oftentimes oftentimes we'll talk about, as we said earlier, dots per inch.
Now,
but in any case,
if you reduce
printable.
the size, this is a 12 by 18 picture. Yeah. You are not going to print it that large, probably. So if you wanted, so if you shrink that picture, does that not increase the resolution like it might in other things, or not?
It depends on how you do it. Because the other question that comes up is in changing resolution or pixels per inch, the other question that comes up is how did you change those dimensions? If we look at the next picture, we'll see here this time we're talking about a reducing the resolution to 72 pixels per inch. And the key there is at the bottom of that dialog box, just above the very last line, is a choice that you can make in a checkbox. It says resample, and if that's checked, it's going to resample the photo. It's going to take whatever change you make, and it's going to calculate it over again and throw out pixels that are not necessary.
Gotcha.
If I uncheck that, which was the case actually, even though there's a check in this particular example, if I were to uncheck it and put 72 dots per inch in there without resampling, then the picture is going to change to, as it shows, I believe, on this particular example, that same picture at 72 pixels per inch is going to move up to 26 inches by 18 inches. So because I didn't resample it, I've made the picture now by making the resolution lower. I've got all these pixels to work with. It's got to put them someplace. So it automatically makes the resulting picture larger because I'm using fewer pixels per inch.
Okay, great.
So because it didn't throw anything out.
No.
The image could then, if I did that, it could then return to 240 pixels per inch without resampling. And not show any degradation, noticeable degradation to the picture, so I can move it back and forth. If I changed it, I didn't permanently change that.
The pixels themselves are not changed.
Even if I saved it, because what I've done then after I have saved it at 72 is because the picture is so much bigger, I can go back in later and say, let's change that back to 240. It'll reduce the size of the picture back to 12 by 18.
So now what happens when we do resample? We've got a visual that shows that.
Okay. If we resample, is this the next one?
Yeah.
Example 3. Okay, when we resample, now with resampling, the picture remains the same original size. It was 12 by 18. It's still 12 by 18.
But we've taken pixels away now.
We've thrown them away. The resolution now goes down to 72 pixels per inch.
Right.
But we have discarded those pixels because we resampled or recalculated with the pixels that were left over at that same size. We in order to get what was left into that picture at 12 by 18, we had to throw some away.
So you're never going to be able to put those back then at that point. Well, after
if
you've
you
saved
save it, yeah.
If you save it as a new picture, you're fine.
Yeah.
But taking those pixels out at this size is really great if it's a web application.
And that's why when I do that, for example, and I'm doing it for the web, I take that picture, but when I save it as, and I give it a little different name. In my case, I usually say same title, so I know what the picture was, even the same picture number, but then I'll add WEB at the end to tell me that this is a picture that's been reduced in resolution for use on the web or on computers.
Now, Photoshop also has an actual function in it that is saved for web and devices, is what it says. And that does some of what we're talking about here, but you're not going to get a picture you can blow back up again. If
you save it, if you have it do that, it just optimizes the 72 pixel per inch picture that you reduced. When you go to that saving method, it looks at it again and says, we can probably discard more pixels, more information from this picture and still have a good picture for your smartphone, for the web, for various other devices that are low resolution devices. And so it just further cleans up and gets rid of things that it perceives it doesn't really need.
Okay, we've got a couple more examples here. What's our next one here showing us?
The next one is the original picture again, to reduce to 72 pixels per inch with resampling.
Right.
Let's see. No, I take that back. This one is the original crop picture, and I just tightened it up at 240 pixels per inch after resampling.
Okay.
Now, taking the original picture down to 72 pixels per inch and saving it, as you might for the web, as we just were talking about, and then take that image and blow it back up to 240 pixels per inch, will degrade it. And if we go, so there we've gotten the next one, and all of a sudden you notice she's not as sharp as she used to be.
No, she's not.
Got a lot of fuzziness and a lot of steppiness in there. You can start to see individual pixels at the top of her hair, for example.
Right.
It's kind of a sawtooth-looking line of hair. What has happened here is once we saved it at 72 pixels per inch, as we had alluded to earlier, and then we try to blow it back up again, we're not going to get the same quality of picture we had before because it was resampled.
So it basically, it sounds to me like the best thing to do is, okay, you know what you're going to use individual versions of a picture for, make them for that, but keep those originals someplace else. And we did a whole show on backing up your photos,
right?
And I think that's probably the wisest thing, isn't it?
Oh, it's the key to keeping the highest quality pictures for that unforeseen use that you didn't know you were going to have.
Okay.
So it's a good idea. Just rename the picture you're saving at the reduced resolution so that you can recognize what you've done to it.
That's right. Okay, well, we're going to be right back in just a moment, so stay with us. We're going to be doing some myth busting in the next segment, so come right back on What's Wrong with This Picture. Have a question or a comment for Dennis Guillaume? Get in touch at picture@rvnn.tv, and don't forget to send us your RVing pictures for possible use on an upcoming episode. You can also leave a voicemail for Dennis at 877-578-RVNN, extension 704. Follow RV Newsnet on Facebook and Twitter, and you can receive text messages to alert you when we're streaming live by texting RVNN to 72727. That way, you can join us live in the chat room, ask questions, and become part of the RV Newsnet family. Remember, any photos or other material submitted to us become the property of RV Newsnet and cannot be returned. Today's show is brought to you by Angie's List, where you'll find thousands of unbiased reports and reviews about service companies in your area. Whether you're looking for a roofer, plumber, house cleaner, dentist, or even a doctor, Angie's List members share their experiences with each other so that you can choose the service company that's right for your job. Companies can't pay to be on Angie's List, and the reviews come from people just like you who have had experience with the companies mentioned. To find out more, go to rvnn.tv and click on the Angie's List ad.